My name is Pete Crotty, and we're going to give a little introduction to the Rans S19 Firewall forward kit for the Jabiru 3300 engine. I'm just going to start by showing how the parts are packaged, how we organize things here at Jabiru USA. We've got them laid out on the table here. Let me just start sort of piece by piece. You'll receive an engine mount with your Firewall forward kit. And then with the engine mount, there will be what is called Firewall side mount hardware, which will attach the mount to the Firewall. And the other end of that, the engine side mount hardware. See, all this hardware is packaged in Ziploc bags with the list of items that are in the bag. To go along with the kit, you'll have to replace the propeller hub on your engine with an extended propeller hub. This is a 63 millimeter propeller hub, which gives a 2-inch extension, extends the propeller forward 2 inches. You'll find a bag of propeller bolt kits in the Firewall forward kit. These are standard aircraft hardware bolts. They're AN6-45As. along with nuts, washers, and some Tinnerman washers. At Jabiru USA, we manufacture our own carburetor heat air boxes. This is an air filter box. Comes with a K&N filter that you can replace, although it's a lifetime filter. The air box mounts on the Firewall, and with the flapper door here, diverts air either from the outside of the cowl for fresh air, or brings air in from the carburetor heat muff for heated air should there be any icing conditions. The oil cooler is a TSO'd oil cooler meant for Lycoming 320s and the like, used on a lot of experimentals as well as many certified aircraft. Along with the oil cooler is a bag full of parts, again with the itemized listing here, that includes AN fittings for hooking your oil cooler to the oil cooler adapter on the engine, stainless steel braided hose, some aluminum parts, spacers, and so forth that will be required later on to install the oil cooler on the engine. We include a friction lock throttle cable long enough to go from your instrument panel up to the carburetor on the Jabiru engine. I've skipped over a part here. One of the great features of our Firewall forward kit is the spinner that we provide. This is an 11.5-inch polished aluminum spinner from Cummins in Australia. It makes spinner installation really easy because it is perfectly lined up, perfectly balanced. You don't have to spend hours and hours trying to line up a fiberglass spinner. Let's see, next, here's a choke cable kit. Bing carburetor on the Jabiru 3300 has an enriching circuit, a choke circuit if you will. We provide the cable and the fittings at the carburetor end to hook that choke up to the instrument panel. Some other parts of the carburetor heat, the airbox and carburetor heat components. We have all the clamps required, a muff to go on the muffler, and again all the parts are listed on the label on the bag. And then some scat ducting. There's 5 feet of this included. That's enough to go from the cowl inlet to the airbox to the carburetor, and the carb heat muff back to the air box. Another piece of the Firewall forward kit, we have, it's called an oil recovery system. This is for the crankcase vent. There's some oil mist along with water vapor and other things come out of that vent. This bottle traps it. Again, it's mounted on the Firewall, and all the components, including the hose clamps needed to attach the hose, are included in this oil recovery kit. Here we have the makings of a battery box. Again, some aluminum that you will have to bend up a little bit, some piano hinge, and aluminum angles along with rivets that you can rivet it onto the Firewall. Fuel system from the Firewall forward. This includes the 1/4-inch fuel hose, fire sleeve to go over the fuel hose, clamps to install it, a steel fitting to carry fuel through the Firewall, and then a short piece of clear aluminum tubing for the overboard vent for the fuel pump on the Jabiru engine. So all the parts are there for the Firewall forward fuel delivery system. Finally, we got just a couple little bags of hardware left. This is a bag of cowl hardware. Includes cam locks, rivets, nut plates, Tinnerman washers, stainless steel screws, everything that's required to attach the cowl to the fuselage. And then finally, we have here a little piece we manufacture. This is called a throttle arm extension. What that does is lengthens the throttle arm so that you have a more normal throw on your throttle cable fore and aft. Finally, there's the two biggest pieces that are left. Jabiru's cowls are nicely done. The gel coat finish is pretty much ready for paint. Very little surface prep needed other than scuffing it up so that removes the mold release compound and gives a slightly rough surface for the paint to adhere to. You use 220 grit sandpaper to do that. That's your top cowl. Here's the bottom cowl. As you can see in the bottom cowl, the NACA inlet ducts for carburetor air, and below it cabin heat are already molded in to and bonded to the cowl, so you don't have to do that work. Then finally, all these parts are put together in a big cardboard box. This cardboard box is too big for UPS, so it's shipped truck freight. Usually we strap it to the top of an engine box, and the engine and Firewall kit are sent out together by common carrier truck freight, usually Conway. 2 or 3 day delivery to most parts of the US. And I think that's about it. Oh, let me say one more thing here. Propellers are part of the Firewall forward kit, but propellers are direct shipped, drop shipped from Sensenig Wood Propeller in Plant City, Florida, and it normally takes about 8 weeks from the time we order a propeller until the time it's shipped out from Sensenig. So it's 8 to 9 weeks from the time that you order your Firewall forward kit and put a deposit on it until you're going to see your propeller. One more option to the kit that I'd like to, that a lot of people buy, is a cabin heat kit. And here your cabin heat kit will come in a long box like this, and inside 2-inch scat ducting to carry air from the outside to your heat muff that goes across the muffler, and also scat ducting to go from the heat muff to a mixer box, which is mounted on the Firewall. Included in the kit are all the clamps necessary to clamp the muff to the muffler, and the scat ducting to the muff and the heat box, and then also a cable to operate the flapper door in the heat box to send air into the cabin, or else warm air, just dump it out the bottom of the cowl. Very common option. I think that's about it. There's a couple other prop options, but these are the main parts of the Jabiru USA Firewall forward kit for a Rans S19. Okay, here we're out at the Rans S19 fuselage that we have going together here. The fuselage is all done except for the landing gear. Those parts we haven't got yet. Let me introduce Mark Phillips, who's going to be helping me with this installation. We're going to start, let me say on this one, we've had the Firewall forward kit on here. We've taken it off, and now we're going to put it back on piece by piece to show how we've done it and where things are located. The first piece to start with, let me back up just a minute here again. This is the nose leg mount that comes from Rans. You'll have to make sure that you get the nose leg mount with your fuselage kit. Anything else Firewall forward you don't need. Nothing else from Rans Firewall forward other than the nose leg and this nose leg mount. So what we do is we put the nose leg mount onto the Firewall, secure it with the bolts here in the bottom so it's going to stay put. Put the other bolts in. One of the first operations you need to do on the engine mount, there may be a little weld slag in the mounting bushings there, so you need to run through them with a 5/16 drill and then check it. Those are quartered. And then check it to make sure that the bolt will slide through there. Pretty frustrating to get an engine mount. This one is not wanting to go through there, Mark. It's pretty frustrating to try and put it on the Firewall, and the bolt doesn't want to go through there for some reason or another. Okay. Now, one thing I want to point out, what we're doing here, we're just using some jam nuts rather than the AN363 metal locking nuts that come with the kit. We do that because we're going to be taking it off again here in a few minutes. Okay, now we're going to demonstrate how to, what we think is the easy way to take this engine out of the box. When you get your engine box, you note a couple of things. Number one, on the end, it'll say prop flange. Take note of where that is. To open the box, there's about 4 screws involved, and they're not on the top. They're on the side like this. Taking those 4 screws out, you can take the top off the box, and this is what you find inside there. Throw these in the box. Inside the box is a set of ram air cooling ducts, so we'll take them and set them out of the way. And also your muffler is inside the box. Now, a couple other Inside the box, here is engine manuals, an installation manual, a parts manual, and a they call it instruction and maintenance manual. That's your actual service and rebuild manual. Now, the way we like to do this is to take this box and set it up on end. Just like this. Now there's, once it's on end, the reason we do that, the engine's installed on a frame inside the box. The frame is screwed to the bottom of the box. So I'm going to pull these screws out of the bottom. Okay, and Ben's going to give me a hand with this as I take out the two top screws on the frame. And then we're going to walk the engine out of the box and get the box out of the way. Now, next thing to do here, we have a bolt which goes through the prop shaft, and Ben's going to bring me a 7/16 wrench, and we're going to take these bolts out. Okay, there's your bolt that's through the prop shaft. Now, there's two more bolts located on rubber bushings that go through the engine mount locations. Okay, we'll set it up here so we can see it better. There, I got one out. The other's being stubborn. There's the second bolt out, and then the frame will lift off the engine, like so. And here's your new Jabiru engine all wrapped in shrink wrap. Now, if you have your engine, you're not going to install it on the airplane for a while. Best thing to do is leave it in the box and leave it in the shrink wrap. You can open the box, take out your manuals if you want, check to see if the muffler and the air ducts are in there, but then put the lid back on the box. And it's even good if you could go to a hardware store or Walmart and get some of these silica packets that absorb moisture. Throw 2 or 3 of them in the box along, but keep it in the shrink wrap until you're ready to actually hang it on the engine. Okay, I just want to point out a couple of things that are real handy to do before you put the engine onto the airplane the final time. When you're installing the throttle arm extension kit, you have to drill a new hole in this carburetor bracket. Once the engine is on the airplane, it's really tough to get a drill in behind there and to drill that correctly. So do that before you install the engine the final time. That way you can fit that cable end adjuster in place after it's on the cable without having to drill the new hole. The other thing that's really good to do is install the throttle arm extension itself onto the carburetor throttle arm before you put that engine on the airplane for the final time, because it's a pain in the you-know-where to reach in there around other apparatus to get to the bolt that holds that throttle arm in place. Before we install the engine, we need to modify one of the engine mount cushions, one of the female cushions. On the top right side mount, we need to just cut the edge off. Bandsaw works great for that, so that when this is on here, there's clearance for the lead from the magneto. So that top mount has to be beveled right there to fit in and make room for that lead. Okay, now that we have our mount temporarily attached to the firewall, and again, we just use jam nuts because they're going to come off again. We put these AN4 bolts, what size were they? AN4-46A bolts through the engine pin weldments. And now what we're going to do is install the back half of the mount cushion. Now remember, on the top right gets the one with the bevel on it. So that goes on there. On the top side, the female goes on first. On the bottom side, the male goes on first. It's done that way because the weight of the engine as it hangs out there wants to sag down, so you put where the most weight is going to be on the male half of the mount cushion. Okay, now it's time we'll wheel our engine over here, put it in place. And engine hoist here comes in really handy. We're about 3 strong guys plus a 4th to put the bolts in. That's pretty close.
Okay, down just a bit. Gonna do the top first and then wiggle the bottom in. Come on down. Okay, we're started over here.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm started over here. So what we do when we tighten these up, you can tell when the little engine mount washer, that's this aluminum thing here, bottoms out on the engine pin weldment inside there. That's the correct tension on those rubber mounts. Okay.
And then you let the pressure down and let the weight.
Okay, what we did here is we got the engine basically in place, put the top bolts in and secured them, tighten them up, and then we let the weight off of the engine. That way the engine weight itself will help compress these mount cushions in the bottom and allow you to get that nut started on the bolt without too much additional trauma here. But once that engine is on there, one of the things we have to do is replace the prop flange with the extension. So you got to hand those to somebody. And
all right, somebody start cutting safety wire off the 6 bolts that are up here and pull all that safety wire out.
we don't.
You don't?
If you look in your installation manual from the Jabiru engine, it says safety wiring down in the 2-inch extension is almost impossible. And they recommend some Loctite, and that's it. Take this hub off. We need to hold the crankshaft. A couple of ways you can do that. We've got this little tool here because we do it all the time. Fits in and holds the crankshaft.
Good 2x4 with bolts would do it?
Yeah, a piece of wood with some holes drilled in that you can stick bolts in there to hold it still. You know, Jabiru says lock the teeth in the firewall. I just didn't like that idea. Anyway, we have here a breaker bar with a little helper.
Torque amplifier.
And then a 5/16 hex driver. So who's feeling strong this morning?
Let's see what it takes.
We'll start
Can't be harder than pushing it too.
with that one. Yep.
All right, here we go. Wasn't that bad. Not with the big ass pipe.
You'd wipe your feet out.
Go in here and I'll get a little pick and we'll just clean out some of this excess Loctite that is in there.
Yeah, what do you do with that?
Oh, where's my... There we go. So,
There's only one way on this, or
yeah, it's drilled.
6 ways actually.
any
Yeah.
way to six.
ways.
Okay.
So a little bit of Loctite on the leading threads there.
Concave toward the engine, convex side out toward the head of the bolt.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Yep. I even have a couple of them.
What does that do?
That's enough.
That's Loctite, yeah, that'll be
That's-
fine.
More.
Helps maintain the torque. Yeah, no, what's probably easiest
Yeah,
is
with an
just
extension.
stick that on there.
Okay. Loctite. It does make a difference, huh, Pete?
Yeah, it does. The direction of the cup on the Belleville washers
Okay.
there.
Work.
The concave side needs to be toward the engine, the convex side toward the head of the bolt. And it just
Take this one and go ahead.
helps a little bit to maintain torque. It's especially helpful on the propellers. Ultimately 30 foot-pounds. And what we like to do is set your wrench at about 24 foot-pounds first, torque them, and again, we'll do that in a diagonal pattern. And once you get them all to 24, then set your wrench for 30 and continue on in the diagonal pattern. Torque them all up to 30.
Okay.
In your installation manual, a Jabiru engine, it says right in there that safety wiring the bolts down in there is almost impossible. Now, some guys have done it with a notch screwdriver and they're poking down in there, but Jabiru, in their airplanes built in Australia, in their shop, Loctite, torque them to 30 pounds, that's all.
Loctite, blue.
Yep.
Okay, one of the first steps in the process after the engine is on there is to locate the carb heat air box. And we'll position this air box between the stiffeners on the firewall. If the flange of the air box happens to be slightly too long that it won't fit between here, just file a little bit off on each edge so that it will fit squarely between the stiffeners on the firewall. Now, as you're installing this, I don't know if you can see this or not, we have a 4 7/8 dimension down from the top. This is what worked for us, and I think will work for most everybody else. The important thing is you position the air box so that the air that's coming from the cowl inlet, so that this inlet is not right in front of an engine mount member so that you can't get the scat ducting to it. Same thing here, this comes from the carb heat muff. If we're up too high, that's going to be right here and you won't be able to get the scat duct to it. So this has to be down low enough so that you can get all of your connections made. Now I'm just going to stick this bolt in temporarily to hold this in place so I can demonstrate here what we're looking for. Okay, another consideration why we want to keep this up as high as we can normally keep it is that as we attach our ducting to the carburetor, you can see there's a pretty close bend right here. If your airbox is down lower, you'll never be able to make the bend. So you need to find a place to fit it where it's high enough that the bend is pretty good going into the carburetor, but yet low enough so that the ducts coming in from the cowl for fresh air and for carb heat don't interfere with the engine mounts up here. For us, again, of 4 7/8 inches seems to work. Okay, the next piece we're going to locate would be the fuel fitting for bringing fuel through the firewall. Now this fitting we've located down here. This is the factory drilled Rans hole through the firewall for electrical and whatever else you want to use it for. We've gone below that a little ways, and again, you can locate this wherever it works for you. You want to be high enough to be above the nose leg mount, but low enough that you're not going to interfere with any electrical ducting. Now this fitting normally would be installed from the inside out, and if I can find my way in here. Okay, and there it comes through right here, and then the fuel hose will be attached to here, and it runs up to the right side of the engine to the fuel pump. So it's a pretty convenient run right up here. Let me just show the routing of the fuel line. We would come from this firewall fitting down here, and we're going to go to this fitting right here on the fuel pump. So you cut it to length. You'll find a length of fire sleeve in your kit. Put the fire sleeve onto the fuel hose using standard aircraft practice, safety wire on each end, and that will complete your fuel plumbing from the firewall forward. Okay, what I want to do is demonstrate how you locate the holes where the throttle cable and the choke cable will come through the firewall. Now you remember we advised to put these little fittings in place before you put the engine on the firewall. Well, to locate these holes, they want to be right behind the throttle cable. So what we do is we'll cut a short piece of cable sheath off the choke cable. It's plenty long, you can do this, and make it parallel to your carburetor fitting, the cable end adjuster. Mark where it hits the firewall, and that's where you would drill a hole for the throttle cable. Then down below you do the same thing on the cable end adjuster for the choke cable, and you just parallel that so that your cables will come out of the firewall parallel to where they go into the carburetor. Again, mark on the firewall end where that hole is going to come through the firewall. Okay, then we'll drill them out later on, put a bushing in them, and that's how we run the cables through the firewall so that they line right up with the carburetor. That way there's no binding in the cables. It'll work free and easy. Okay, once the airbox is in place, we need to locate the hole for the cable that's going to come through and onto the cam for the flapper door that operates the carb heat. And the way that you do this is to line it up with a drill so that the drill goes about right over top of the end of the arm, the cam that's on there, and locate, just make your mark in there and then drill it through when you get the engine out of the way where you have room to do that. But that's how you locate that hole. It goes right through this is the cable clamp right here where my finger is. So you go underneath the cable clamp and make your mark, and you go right on through the flange of the airbox and through the firewall itself. That's where the cable comes through that activates the carb heat system. This is Jabiru's starter solenoid, starter contactor. And on our Rans, we are going to use a master contactor as well. What we're going to do first is locate the master contactor. And Mark's going to show you where we have decided to put that on the firewall. This would be optional. You can locate this anywhere where it's handy. This is what we thought would work for us.
One of the nice features of this is that the battery is going to be mounted in this location right here. We'll have a real short cable run from the battery positive post over to the contactor, and then the heavy cable from the master contactor over to the starter contactor will be another short run right here. You'll see here where we'll put the starter contactor on this side. And here's where the starter contactor is going to be located. And this gives us a real nice easy access for the heavy cable from the master contactor to the starter, and also the starter cable coming from the starter motor will come directly down through here and connect to this terminal on the starter contactor. Can't really show that very well. Okay.
Again, these locations are optional. This is what worked for us. Handy place to put them. Slight alteration that we do to the cabin heat mixer box. We install this short piece of aluminum, and this, if you have extra in your kit, or you can go to Lowe's or Home Depot and get a little piece of architectural aluminum, rivet onto there, mount the cable end adjuster in there, lined up with the arm on the cabin heat box. That makes it a whole lot easier to position the cable and secure that cable that goes in there. To make this cabin heat box fit in place, you have all these bumps on the firewall that are to stiffen the firewall. There's no spot that is big enough between the bumps to fit this airbox. So what we've done is we have flattened a portion of these bumps, you can see here, so we have a big enough flat area to fit the cabin heat box onto. Now I'll just stick this in place temporarily here. Put a nut on the back side to hold it in place. We have the cabin heat mixer box installed in place here. We've also got the cabin heat muff on the muffler. Pretty simple plumbing job. Scat ducting, the clamps are in your kit if you buy the cabin heat option to the Firewall forward kit. But that's where we've located that. Again, it's optional. You can put it wherever you want, wherever it fits.
Something about like that.
Okay, that would show the cable routing. Use a little bit of a wider radius on your cable there. If you want to, you can actually, with an Adele clamp, probably secure this to the engine mount. Again, optional, up to you.
Okay, to fabricate the battery box, if you will, for this aircraft, one of the challenges, of course, are the little reliefs or bumps that are in the panel here. And what we want to achieve primarily is support the weight of the battery. So we'll take a piece of angle. This size is provided with the kit. And we've established a location right here that's directly above this cross member that provides a good solid mounting point. But to get the battery out, spaced out beyond these bumps here, we have to space this angle out away from it, so we've provided another piece of 1/8 inch thick material to do that with. And this has already been drilled to the firewall. The location is really pretty self-explanatory. You can see the various row of rivets is directly below here, which is a good location for it. What we'll wind up with there is, of course, the battery we've opted to use here is the Odyssey PC680, which provides plenty of cranking amperage for this engine. And it will essentially just sit on top of that angle, which will support it in this position. Now, to keep it from held up against the firewall, we fabricated what this basically does is, once this is attached to the firewall with a couple of hinge pins, this will hold the battery in place like this. Now, to fabricate these, you start with basically 2 pieces of straight aluminum strip like this, and the hinges, little sections of hinges that are also provided with a kit. And you'll bend into the strip and attach the hinges in this fashion, and you're pretty much making 2 identical pieces, but you'll notice that the difference in the way that the hinges are oriented on this one. Okay? Now this one, another feature here that we have to avoid is this side of this rear strap will go directly on the firewall, but to compensate for the bumps here, in order to locate the other side of it, we have the spacer here, similar to the spacer underneath the angle, that brings it out away from the firewall. So let me give you a better look at that, what that spacer looks like. So this attaches to the firewall like that, and then we'll use the same rivet that attaches the hinge to the strap to also attach the whole unit to the firewall like this. Of course, we got indicated what size rivets you need to use for these. Okay, so this is in position. I can't put the battery in there, of course, because of the clecos, but you'll see how it actually sits inside like that. So the other half of the front half of the hold down, just simply pin directly into this one, so that you've got access to get the battery in and out behind this, the nose gear mount structure. And it'll close like this. And to retain the hinge pins, we'll put a little bit of a bend in the pin so that it's not straight. So it's more or less a force fit in through the hinge eyes. So once in place, you've got a good solid attachment for the battery.
Very nice. Good.
The Jabiru 3300 engine kit is supplied, comes with this voltage regulator on it. It's a solid state regulator. And in positioning this on the panel, you notice that the kit comes with, or the firewall comes with this hole already cut into the panel. I believe that's for a BNC connector that you can use to make electrical connections between the firewall and the inside of the airplane. But we're just going to cover that up, since we're going to use this hole more centrally located to the firewall for our electrical connections. We're just going to use this to cover that hole up. And it's a good location for the voltage regulator as well. And we're using the slots in the regulator fit an AN4 bolt real nicely. And this positions the regulator in a real good location to bring the wires out from the alternator, and also to go into the rest of the electrical system. We route the wires right along the tubing as required in order to keep them out of the way and secured. The oil recovery bottle that's supplied with the kit is basically a can with an end on each end and some fittings on it. It comes with a bracket that looks like this to hold it down with. The location of this is really not all that important. You can put it just about anywhere, but there's a pretty good location right in this area that would work fine. You basically have two holes in the bracket itself to attach it with, and you can bolt it directly to the firewall this way, and then once you've got that bolted to the firewall, the bottle just snaps into the bracket like this, and you'll run the hose from the vent, the breather, on the oil filler tube directly over to this fitting here, and then another hose from here which will be clamped down low on the firewall to allow any overflow that might come out of the bottle, and the fumes that come out of the crankcase can exhaust right out here with your air outlet. There's also another hole provided in the top of this can right here that it gives you a convenient place to attach the fuel pump bypass hose. If you do get a failure of the fuel pump, mechanical pump on the engine, you'll connect the hose from that pump directly into this hole right here on top of the oil recovery bottle. So that would work well right there.
All right, for the purpose of operating our carb heat, choke, and cabin heat, we roll all our cables in order to make a nice free and secure fixture. What I do is make sure that on the carb heat is what we'll be demonstrating. Make sure that your carb heat is extended fully. Carb heat cable is pulled all the way out with the control cable all the way to the instrument panel in the off position, and your bell crank all the way in the off position. Mark your center point. From the center point, measure out 3 inches. At 3 inches, that will give you 3 wraps around our tool. Measure in a 1/2 inch, and that's where we will stop our wraps at, and that will let you end up back at the neutral point. Need to cut this off just past this mark that we can bend to 90. We have our cable slid into this bolt, and whenever we roll this, we want to pay attention to the direction we roll. With your cable on this side of the bell crank, you will want to roll this one clockwise. We'll just continue to roll this. Until we get to this mark at the 1/2 inch past where our neutral mark was at. Now there's where that 1/2 inch mark comes in. On this tool that you're going to make, your hole is going to be a 1/2 inch from that outside. Remove this, and that should slide off fairly easily. Then we want to clip off right here. Clean out this hole and make sure your AN3 goes through it. All right, AN3 number 7. From the bottom, we use one standard AN3 washer, and I've cut a 3/16 ID, 1/4 inch OD bushing. Will go on there next. and then just slide your cable onto that bushing. Another AN3 washer. It looks like that one needs thins. And then I use an AN3 heat lock nut on that. Anything I put under the cowl, I always use the heat lock nuts. And then you tighten this down just snug. You don't want to over tighten and mushroom that bushing out, because then it'll lock up against your cable. And I'm going to have to change those to thin lock nuts, make sure we have the threads. But then you get a nice operation. This will never come loose. If it ends up that you didn't get stopped right at that 1/2 inch mark, you can adjust here to make your cable up flush to your instrument panel whenever it's done. And you do the same on the carb heat and the cabin heat. That's it.
Very nice.
Okay, the main carburetor is supplied with the Jabiru engine. Has a throttle arrangement that is, as you see right here. And the problem that we've got with this is that the distance of the lever, the length of the lever, is too short to give you, on a direct push-pull throttle type cable arrangement, to give you much of a throw on the throttle arm itself. So what we want to do is extend this arm up so that you've got more throw in the throttle itself and when you're operating the engine. One of our early builders came up with this real neat little kit that is a pre-manufactured extension for the cable arm, for the throttle arm, that fits directly onto the Bing carburetor. And it comes with the kit just like this, with instructions on how to do it, and some pictures on the back that show you the exact arrangement of how it all goes together. And even pre-assembles it all just as it would go onto the carburetor. So it's pretty much difficult to mess that up. Anyway, it comes with a castle nut with a cotter pin on it, a special bushing here, and an AN3 bolt in it. If you disassemble it just as it comes out of the bag, you take this, and this bushing here is machined and attached on here already, and this fits directly into the recess over the end of the throttle shaft. You can see just like that. Now this bushing right here goes between the two. The original throttle arm here, and that's a spacer to compensate for that. And you'll take this and rotate the arm back, insert the AN3 bolt through the assembly, like that, and then install the washer and the castle nut. Now, alternately to the castle nut, you can also use a metal lock nut, just a regular AN3 lock nut on that. But what this has done for us, of course, here's the cotter pin if you're going to use the castle nut. So now we've got an extended throttle arm that gives us significantly almost double the throw of the original arm. Now, earlier Pete mentioned drilling this hole out and the bracket that holds the cabling. And this is, as you can see now, you can see why this is, because from the original cable location as it comes with the carburetor, we want to move this up to this location so that it's in line with the extended throttle arm. All right, the Jabiru engine comes with these air ducts that are designed to provide the cooling for the engine. This is the way it is actually delivered with the kit. And of course, you notice there's going to be a little more assembly required, but it's an airplane, right? So, this front piece right here is an air dam that fits directly into the front. It's kind of difficult to see in this perspective, but this will go right here. You can see one is finished right here in the front of this duct over here, already installed. Also, you'll need to install these components that are shown right here. These little dams that deflect the air downward onto the cylinders, and those will be bonded into position, and the dimensions and all are given in the kit for where these are located. The other modification of this is there will be some trimming required along the edge here to clear the bolts that attach the rocker covers, and these small clips right here that reinforce the fiberglass where it attaches to the rocker cover bolts are provided in the kit as well. And once you have your air duct assembled, it'll fit down onto the engine like this. Now, we don't have the bolts out here, but these bolts will be pulled out of the rocker covers and inserted into that, which will hold the duct in position like this. Now, there's also a small clip right here that's provided to hold down the inside of the air duct. There is a spring that will be attached to this clip, and it'll be the other end of the spring will attach to a piece of safety wire that is wrapped around the cylinder. That's also described in the instructions, and that will hold the air ducts in place. Here we have the air duct in place on the engine. You see it's attached underneath these three rocker cover bolts. Now, I'm not going to install the wiring harness at this time. We're just going to use this as a demonstration on how to fit the cowling. But what you'll do is, before you put the air duct on, you'll feed the ignition leads through this hole in the rear of the duct, and there's a grommet that comes with the duct that you will fit into position to seal that hole up.
Here are your coils. One right here, and then one down back behind the number 6 cylinder back here. And what we'll do is Jabiru recommends we put some type of, they call a blast tube on these to blow some cold air on these coils. The easiest thing we found that works is this is regular old, what they call blue line cold water pipe. You can get it at any hardware store, Lowe's, anything like that, Home Depot. And then this is half-inch cold water blue line pipe. And also the fittings that go with it also. You'll need a 45-degree fitting and a 90. And what we do here is I'll take a piece of tubing. You'll cut a hole in the side, or the inboard side of your ram air duct in front of the baffle that's in number 5 here. And you're going to put it in at a little bit of an angle. And also, you'll end up cutting off, where's it? Now this is for...
Man, after all the money already spent?
I know, isn't it horrible? What I've done, I've cut about a 45-degree angle off of a piece of this. And what you're going to end up doing is something like this. It's not going to be on top, obviously. You're going to drill a hole in the side, but for purposes of showing you, cut a hole in the side, so that way when air coming in, it hits this tube, comes right out, and blasts right onto the back of this coil right there. And simple 5-minute epoxy and some cotton flock in there, that'll hold it right in place. If you want to build a little standoff with an 8L clamp on the back side of your ram air duct, that's perfectly fine also, to give it a little bit of rigidity. On the left bank, 2, 4, and 6, the same thing, but it's a lot shorter pipe. You have a little piece comes out of the back with a 90 that's turned about 45 degrees over to blow right onto the coil on the back side of this one over here.
But on that one, you're coming out of the back behind right
Yeah, you're coming out of the back side on this bank.
It's just a 90-degree.
No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It gets enough air back there that it'll be perfectly fine with that. So yeah, but this is the tougher of the two, is this one right here. And it's, you're going to, get your step drill or unibit, drill the hole through there, get it to where it fits nice in there, set it all up, 5-minute epoxy, or what we do is we tack it in place let it set, and then pull it off, and then do a nice bead around with it with the 5-minute epoxy. At that point, you got an idea where it's going to set, then you can do a standoff there. Yes, the plug wires do go through this hole in the back here with the grommet. And yes, it is possible. Here's what I do. I will take this grommet out. You take the grommet out, and then I will just take a pair of shears and just slit right up the back. Don't cut a channel, just cut it. Simple as that. Set that aside, and then the fun begins. You may have to, this grommet here, you can see is just kind of a hole, just cut it. You may trim that out just a little bit to the edge of the inside edge of the grommet, but you just start feeding plug wires through it. One at a time. Oh, and cut the, you can cut off the tie wraps right here. But yeah, by the time you're getting here, take a break, go get a cup of coffee, calm down for a moment, because it does get frustrating. But once you get it back to where you need them right here, and you can kind of, put your plug wires on, set your ram air duct down, get an eyeball where it needs to be. Because once you're messing with it, it is difficult back here to move it back and forth. But get it set, and then slide it. You slide your wires up through the slit in the back, and then put the grommet on there, and that plugs everything up, and it'll be fine.
That's sort of like putting 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag.
That's what you're doing. But it will work, and that's how it's, the plug wires on the new style ram air ducts run inside the ram air ducts. Okay, this is your fuel pump overflow right here. If your diaphragm busts and you have a problem with that, it will start pumping overboard here. Run this piece of clear PVC tubing somewhere down a frame, motor mount frame, and dump it overboard. That's where you want to go, is definitely down and below the plane. It's right here. It's a little silver nipple at the bottom of the fuel pump. Pete showed you where it came off the carburetor. It's right here. There's a red cap on it right now, right next to the top of the diaphragm. That's a very, very short little nipple on there. And I've tried to run tie wrap on it, and it works with some success, but every once in a while it'll pop off, and you'll all of a sudden notice your engine's running rough. It's not going to quit at all, but it's running a little rough, like it's running rich. No, it's like it's running lean. And then what you can do is if you pull your carb heat and it immediately gets better, then that's what usually it's what happens. The vent valve is, the vent tube is popped off. Put a little piece of safety wire around it and just safety it on with safety wire. Pull it tight.
Where does it go to?
Oh, I'm sorry. It goes to this nipple that's underneath the outlet of the air box here, right below the carb outlet of the air box. That's where it hooks to, because that's what Pete was talking about. It's on the fresh air side of the air box, and it goes over to the carb bowl vent. Yep. That way it keeps the pressures even between the two. Let's see, what else we talked about? And we know that off of the carb heat muff, it goes into the front of the air box. The cold air from the NACA scoop goes into the side of the air box up top.
And now I'm better do it with the carburetor.
And the bottom one out on the other side goes out to the carburetor. That's correct.
We're ready to fit the cowling. The most important factor in fitting the cowling is to making sure that everything lines up primarily with the spinner on the airplane. You want a nice fit all the way around the spinner so that you've got a good smooth airflow over here. You want to shoot for at least a 1/4 of an inch or so clearance between the cowling and the spinner in the final assembly. A little tighter if you want to work with it more than that. But there is relative motion between the spinner, propeller, assembly, and the cowling, so a little clearance there is a good idea. And what we do just to hold this in place, we'll insert a couple of the propeller flange bushings through the extension and into the spinner back plate here, and then put a couple tie wraps in to hold it in place. And that'll give us our reference to mount the cowling and fit it up. Okay. Once you've got your back plate, your spinner back plate in position, we're going to fit the upper cowling on. Now the cowling is intentionally, this isn't cut out in the very front behind the spinner, and the trailing edge of it and this edge are actually longer than they'll eventually be. Once we get it fitted, we'll trim these edges to fit the lower cowling once it's in position. You pretty much just lay it on top of the fuselage, behind the spinner and center it in the approximate position where it needs to go. And you could mark a measure up from each end to establish the exact center of the cowling on the top and align that with this row of rivets on the top of the airplane. Next, you will start trimming away at this front bulkhead so that it rests down onto the crankshaft extension until you get a nice alignment between this and the spinner back plate. Bearing in mind that the spinner itself is about 1/8 of an inch thick. So once you put the spinner onto the back plate, you trim this down until you get a nice fit, a nice alignment between here and the spinner itself. Bear in mind that the engine mounts over time are going to compress a little bit. So it's a good idea to make your initial fitting with the spinner slightly higher than the top of the cowling, and generally it varies from airplane to airplane, but the spinner will be a little bit lower over time. And if you want a really perfect fit there, consider that. All right, what we want to do first of all is make sure that as we fit the cowling that we put it back in the same position every time. So I want to establish a center line mark at the top of the cowling to make sure that as we put the cowling off, remove it, we get back in the same place every time. Now what we've done is the cowling on that side and this side, the lower edge is at the same position on both sides of the airplane, and we reference the rivets that are already installed in the airplane to do that. So I want to take a piece of tape here and mark a line on the fuselage and on the top of the cowling so I can always reference back exactly to the same position when I reinstall the cowling for additional subsequent fittings. Now I know exactly where the center of the cowling goes. And what I'll do first of all is I'll make a rough measurement of how much of this material I need to cut off. I know I need to lower this. I could use a ruler to do this too, but this is kind of handy. I know I'm going to go about this much material just to be safe for the first cut. So we'll remove this much material from the bottom edge of the bulkhead, and then we'll see how it fits after that.
It would have been handy to make that mark in the middle before you cut that off.
Just
Now at the same time, we're looking to make sure we're going to move it over to where it's centered as well. So I'm going to take a little material off in this area right here to get a better fit.
You're talking probably from about there to
Yep.
about there, right?
Yep. Now we gotta go. Gotta go. Here, you got your Sharpie? Let's take that off right there. Huh. Okay. It's got to go that way just a little bit. Establish the rear edge of the cowling so we get a good fit at the edge of the skin here. I'm going to put a piece of tape right at the edge of the skin line, like so, that we can draw on. Now, if you take a simple compass like that, and I'm going to draw a line about an inch or so, maybe 3/4 of an inch beyond the skin, and I'll use the compass as a guide to make that line. Now I know exactly this distance from the edge of the skin to the line, and I'll do this all the way around to the entire top half of the cowling. When we put the cowling back into position, establish the gap that we want to achieve here in the front between the spinner back plate and the front of the cowling. Make sure we've got it centered on the top. Then I want to follow the same line carefully. All the way down to the bottom edge of the cowling. Now I'm going to use this as a reference. I'm not going to go ahead and trim this all the way up to the line that I've just drawn. I'll remove it within, say, 1/8 of an inch or so, and then check the fit. And what this does is if there's any discrepancies in the line going fore and aft, you can achieve a really nice fit here, watching your clearance at the front, and get that trimmed exactly where you need it. Once you've got that rear edge of the cowling trimmed off, you go ahead and establish the locations for whatever your fasteners are that you're going to use. In this case, we use 1/4 turn fasteners, and you'll drill your hole in the fiberglass to match these fasteners we've already got attached to the flange that mounts the cowling, and attach this into position where it's going to eventually go. To do the lower cowling, once we've got the upper cowling in position, we've already established the location for the fasteners along the trailing edge of the cowling. It's time to get on with this one. Now, this comes with the same bulkhead completely molded across the front of this. We're going to need to remove this in order to clear the crankshaft in order to fit this up to match the upper cowling. Okay? Remove as necessary.
Yeah, it looks about right.
Ready? Remove this. Yeah, it seems like established a general fit for the lower cowling. It's a matter of getting everything into position. You'll notice back here, again, we're going to have to trim back to the edge of the skin line in this position, same as we did on the upper half. And once we've got this where it fits, the lower cowling where it fits up against the mounting flanges against the firewall, then we know exactly the height of this trim line where the overlap is, this little offset. And then we can fine-tune this bottom edge of the original cowling, which this one's already been cut, but it would be down below this. And we can again measure up the right amount of offset and then trim that to fit here. It's just a matter of putting it into position, making a few measurements, trimming it, refitting it until you've got a good solid fit all the way around.
All right, so somebody put an 1/8 of an inch hole through there, and I'll mark the other one.
Where'd the drills go?
And we want the bottom of this angle face to be at right here at the bottom line of this flange. So is trimming these off just enough where they fit in between the two flanges. So here, I'll turn it upside down. It does the same thing. Actually, we're about to do the wrong. Hold on. This is very important. It's got to be on this part. I'm led you astray there. There we go.
Put those on the side.
Yep. Okay. Make sure when you do this, what you're putting these flanges on the top side of the oil cooler. I got ahead of myself and almost missed here. So it goes on the top side, and the top face of the angles face inboard, in toward each other. So while they're going to do those, I'm going to go over and trim these. These little pieces have to fit in between these two flanges here. So while you guys are drilling these, I'm going to go trim these on a chop saw real quick.
Maybe a couple dozen. After one or two, I got top of the drill away from me.
Trim the 1/4 inch aluminum tubing spacers as needed to fit between the oil cooler flanges. So that's what we're talking about here, and I got just enough there to fit between them. I kind of looked at, eyeballed it, said, yeah, I need about a flange worth. So that's what I did. And then there we go. Yeah, see, that one's a little tight, but this flange is also fairly.
You can
Thin.
reform it. You don't bend it. You reform it.
Yeah, that's it.
You don't bend it.
You're gonna have to have that eyeball calibrated.
Yeah.
There we go.
And you're putzing around at home, you're professional now.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so we've got that. Now, in the interest of time, what's sent with the kit is 5.5-inch pieces. You only need 4s now. And then also, go ahead and read that part of it. So what we did is, we start out with an angle that one face is 1 inch. I trimmed off 3/8 of it. Excuse me, I trimmed off how much of it? I trimmed off, yeah, leaving 5/8. I'll show you in a minute. It'll all come clear here in just a second. So that's what we did there. So we trimmed off 3/8, 5/8, leaving 3/8. No, I just said that wrong again.
Trimmed off 3/8.
3/8, 5/8. Thank you. Then we flip the angle around, and the next thing we do.
1.5 inch wide by 5/8 deep.
Yep, we make a cutout, and what this cutout is going to do. Where's number 1 on this side?
Yes. Right there.
Okay. So number 2.
No more of those.
Number 2. All right. What these cutouts do. Let's see which way I orient this. They go like this. And they make space for the fittings to come out. That's what they're there for. Okay. We need to go over to the oil pan and measure the width outboard to outboard of the oil pan at the front end of it. And it's about, what, 4 3/8 it looks like.
4
and 7/16. Okay. Well, that's fine.
Heavy 4 3/8.
So what we're going to do then is we're going to find the center line here, which we had before. Yeah, 3 1/4 if I remember correctly. That's a nice crooked line.
Marker's line counts.
We do this work on teeth.
I think we should get Ed a pair of high-grade calipers.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. 4 3/8 is what, 2 5/16? No, 3/16.
3/16 either side.
So let's go, we'll just go a hair on the outside.
By the time you're
Yeah.
half a hair each
30
way,
seconds.
it ain't really gonna matter.
All right, 2 3/16. 1, 2, 3/16. What you're doing here is just giving yourself an area for that plate. All right. And we're going to clamp these plates down here. I'll be right back.
Go through the oil course, but not do a good thing. Clamp that, see if it's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do.
All right, take her over there and see if it fits on the bottom. If it fits on the bottom. Is it too loose, too tight? Just snug?
I might have just moved your clamps.
That's fine.
I did it in this.
That's where it needs to be.
Yeah, because that you just
Okay.
self-adjusting.
Yeah, self-centering.
Okay. And
The trick is to drill it without moving it.
the head of the bolt fitting in this channel or on this face right here, this 5/8 face, so that we can still get it in there and it's not, you know, bottoming out like this. This is a problem, obviously.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you go too high, you have the exact opposite problem on the fin, because the fin only is so deep and you've got to be able to get a nut back there. So the trick is place this on the fin there and determine where in the middle of that face we need to draw a line there. What you're trying to do is to find that compromise between the two faces that you're going to have to drill through there.
Radius.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, ½ inch in on each side?
½ inch in on each side.
You know,
Everybody
sometimes
else is
you get
building
to a point where
RVs.
you begin to realize there's
Yeah,
certain
they'll need 2
things.
people.
You get the feeling
Yep.
of what you don't have to worry about.
When they report about now, sit down, turn the news on, and sleep through it.
Edge. So then we put this guy up here, and it's right at the very front of the oil pan, right where it comes down.
Okay.
Right at the very front there. So, if you want to go ahead and back drill through those and go through 2 fins.
2 fins.
Go through 2 fins there. All the holes are deburred, everything's ready to put back together. You would bolt these 2 brackets onto the oil pan first, and then bolt this on. Now, while we're talking about it, in between this oil pan bracket and this oil cooler bracket, when you bolt them together, you can put this grommet in between the 2 of them to provide a little bit of shock mount there.
Okay.
So when you're putting this together, just
Between
don't
the 2 brackets?
between the 2 brackets, we're going to put this grommet in there. Which you can bounce the nut in here in an open end wrench in between fin number 1 and fin number 2. That's where it's going to go. And then the rest of the thread part of the bolt will go into fin number 2 to give you correct thread past the end of the nut here.
What kind of nut is that?
All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to put a 45-degree fitting on here. 2 45-degree fittings onto the oil cooler here. So I need a pair of needle nose. Here we go, right here. This will work.
Yeah, even those dikes.
And we use, around here, we use this Permatex 2B gasket, former gasket sealer on everything. We use it on brake fittings, we use it on our fuel fittings, we use it on our oil fittings. It works fine with us. So that's what we use here. You can get this down at any auto parts store. So just some of this gunky stuff, and it gets all over everything. It doesn't come out for about a week. Got first couple of threads, and just start it in there. Ooh, that's going to
What's
be
the final orientation?
forward.
Forward.
Yeah, the 45 degrees is going to be forward.
How do we know which way is forward right now?
You pick it. It's your orientation.
Oh,
And-
and it did have to do with the fact that when you had it together, the
This is the oil cooler bypass. Right now, the way the engine's set up, it has no oil cooler circuit in it. It goes through the filter, through the pan, and that's it. And through the engine, obviously. To have an oil cooler system in it, it has to have this bypass in here. So somebody, go ahead and take these 2 fittings out. We're not going to use those press-on fittings. 1/8 inch NPT to AN6 fittings here. I skipped over is making a flange on the front side of this. And we don't include the material. You've got a ton of that, well, not a ton, but you got the L angle left over from the kit, and you got scrap aluminum left over from the kit. And the instructions show you the flange I made to put the rubber gasket material around there. You know, that orange gasket material that you can buy from Spruce. We're going to start including it. We have not been including it in the kit. We will start doing that. But you can pick up a roll of it from Spruce for next to nothing. It's, you know, 10 bucks maybe, something like that. And make a flange. That the flange, when you make it, the rubber fitting will go right over the inlet on the front of the cowl.
Okay.
Yeah.
With a little bit of oil
Not.
on
Yes.
the face of it. Where's the oil?
so Mark, you,
It's
and then this
You know,
is
I bet you auto store have those.
Once you get tight.
Bethleheim's O-ring comes in here, comes with it obviously,
And it flattens out.
and it will flatten out. Now I'll sell you one. I forget how much they are actually, but we can sell them here. Or what you can do is take the
little O-ring off
O-ring off the oil cooler, off your old oil cooler, put it in there temporarily, at least until you get one of these from us, and it'll work just fine also.
Or what about the oil filter?
That's what
The new oil filter will have another one.
Oh,
Just take off
you
your
said
old
that.
oil
He
filter.
said
I thought
cooler,
you
but he
said
meant
cooler.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Filter.
Filter.
Okay, we know what you meant.
Yeah. Take the strap wrench and remove the oil filter.
Got a bucket or something?
Is that baffle 2 or 3 inches wide?
It's this way.
Well, whichever.
Yeah, it's 2 or 3. And what you're going to do is probably
They have both sizes.
I would get this piece out of the engine parts kit, and it just screws right on top of the stud that's right there. Nope, requires no Permatex or anything like that. It'll just screw right on top of the other one. It's an oil filter adapter, and I just had my wrench here, and a 3/4 inch wrench, and just snug it up. Don't crank down, just snug it up. That's all it needs right there. Then the next thing is you can take some of the residual oil that's sitting here. We might have to get a little bit more. You have a little bit, there we go. And just wet this O-ring a little bit, just like you do when you put a new filter on. And all it does is slide right over that adapter fitting we just put in. Where'd the paper towel go? Now, the orientation of these two fittings. The rear fitting goes straight down. The forward fitting comes out at what, about a 45-degree angle there or so. And as simple as that, if you want to take a picture of it, that's in the directions. We'll talk about that. All right, so we got the orientation of the fitting there, and the only thing you do is screw the oil filter back in place. You kind of have to hold it there. And it's just like a regular old car filter. Put it on hand tight. And then give it about a 1/4 turn or 1/8 of a turn, something like right about that. There she goes.
How would you safety wire that?
Okay, let's get our oil cooler, assemble it again just enough so we can put it in place, because now we're going to measure the oil lines. Let's come over to the vise over here, and I'm things on one of these oil lines.
I have no vices.
Here's what we do.
Here.
At
You
your
got it.
point, yeah, I got it now. You ready, John? Mm-hmm. When you've measured your line, the distance you want to cut it, wrap it nice and tight with some masking tape. All right, so we've got it nice and tight. Then take what we use here is a chop saw. Not everybody has a chop saw in their house. Use a Dremel with a metal cutoff bit. Anything that's a high-speed rotating tool with a metal cutoff bit. If you use a hacksaw, you're going to do nothing but frustrate yourself.
Yes.
And the spruce catalog says, "Oh, cut it with a hacksaw."
No.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Get a Dremel with a nice high-speed metal cutoff bit, and your life will be a lot simpler. But what helps is wrap this very tightly with masking tape, and then when you're done, most of it, what you're trying to do is prevent the stainless steel lines there from fraying, the braid from fraying.
Cut it through the tape.
Cut it right through the tape. Now we're going to put an end on, then we'll take it over to the cooler, we'll actually put it on the cooler, then we're going to mark how far we want to make our next line, and then we'll cut one. I'll show you what we'll do, and we'll cut one. But while we're sitting over here, we can put an end on, and we'll get that on for the view. See how nice and even that is? And this is the tricky part. So what I do is, we've got a set of these vise, it's a vise insert. It's a pipe holder is basically what it is for a vise. So we've got some diamond on the top and some diamonds on the edge there. Plastic should work just as fine. You can usually find these in Home Depot or Lowe's, maybe Harbor Freight, any of the tool companies like that. So set that in your vise. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the hose vertically in here, and enough to hold it pretty tight.
While you're doing that, instead of a Dremel, can you use like a die grinder with a metal cutting disc on it too? 'Cause
Sure.
That's a high speed.
Yeah. Anything that's not going to fray this thing. And a sawing back and forth action with teeth on it just,
This one did.
And a bandsaw is just as bad.
the bandsaw is just as bad. I've tried it on the bandsaw, it doesn't work as well. Same thing, even though it's only going in one direction, it doesn't work as well because it's got teeth. And the teeth grab on the braid and it just starts fraying it.
Yep.
So, all right, now I've got this pretty stiff in here. I don't want it to move downward. Here's my straight fitting. We're going to use 3 straight fittings and 1 45-degree angle fitting. Unscrew the straight fitting here. And we're going to take, there we go, we'll take the nipple part of it and we'll just set it aside. What we're going to do is this is the part, the flange part that we're going to put over the hose. And this is what's going to get you every single time when you start to insert this over the hose. That's what usually starts making things fray. So the less fraying you have to begin with, the better. I'll just take just a drop of oil, and I'll just put just a touch, I mean just a little bit, on the inside here. Now, for this particular fitting, I grab a socket, and this socket is a 3/4 inch socket, so that the fitting can go inside the socket, just like so. All right? Then, just, you know what, I'm gonna, then I just nice and carefully roll it over, and oh, let me check one thing. Make sure you're tightening. There we go. I'm just going to roll it over there, press down. There. I should have done it.
Is that thing threaded inside?
It's not threaded. I'm just using a tightening action on it just to push it down. The edge of the hose is right up against the threads in there.
Okay.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
All right. David, you okay? See, Ray?
Yep.
Okay, so that's what you want. That's what you're looking for. Is the end of the hose is right up against the bottom of the threads.
Still for a second.
Now that we've got that, we do need a little piece of masking tape. Hold on just a second. Now all I'm doing with this masking tape is making a reference. What I want to know is if this hose end has pushed out while I'm putting the threading the nipple into it. So that's all we're doing with this masking tape, is just making a reference line. So I double check. Yep, that hose is right up against there. And I'm just going to wrap some masking tape around the end of the fitting, so that way I'll see if my stainless steel braided line has pushed out of the fitting. Okay, now use the side jaws here, and we're going to lock it into the vise using the side jaws. Don't crank down on it because it's aluminum fitting. We're going to get it in there snug. And we'll put just a drop. This is just regular old, I think this is mineral. Yeah, I think it's mineral. Let's put a drop on the nipple here, just a little bit. And we'll start it in there just a little bit. Just get the threads. Make sure it's not cross-threaded. Okay? I got it started. And this one is, I believe, 11/16. Yeah, this is 11/16 box wrench. So, I'm right-handed. With my left hand, I'm going to push forward to keep the hose from backing out of the fitting. I'm going to take my 11/16 inch wrench here, work it over the blue part of the fitting onto the nipple part, and I'm just going to start screwing it in. Oops. It doesn't bottom. What you're looking for is about a paper's width between the nipple fitting and the back part of the fitting there. Just a paper's width. You don't want to bottom out.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? Because they tell me not to. I mean, that's what the parts say. Don't bottom them out. But basically, that's what you end up with, just like that.
So fine you'd easily damage them, I guess.
I think they don't want you to sit there and start pulling the threads back, and you start bottoming out, and you don't realize. But that is the fitting, and that's how you put it on. You can take your piece of tape off there.
And you didn't get any space, so you know your hose didn't back out.
Yep, and I didn't see my hose back out, so that's the fitting, and it's done. So let's go over to the plane. We'll hook it on the oil cooler, and I'll show you how to mark your next piece. Because I'm going to put this fitting on the oil cooler because it's a little bit easier for me to work up front, up top. I'm not going to snug it down, it's there, just finger tight. All right, now what I do is, I'm looking at this fitting. If you look very, very closely, there's a scribe line on the red part of the fitting here. I'm going to tighten that up there. Okay, so there's a scribe line there. So what I'm going to do is hold my hose up against it where that scribe line is. And that's approximately where I want to cut it. Yeah, longer is better than shorter, but not too much longer either.
That's what you said last night.
Length does matter.
So take my fitting back off. All right.
Now,
Hey, but
are you going to make like an index so that you...
There you go, just nice and tight. We've wrapped our tape right over the center of the line. Give myself a mark again, right about there. Now I'm going to take over the chop saw here, and I'm going to cut it on our chop saw. And let's go put it on the plane, see if it fits.
in the first.
Yeah, you want to do it on the first one. Just want to go straight down. All right.
Congratulations there, yeah.
Looks
Good.
nice.
There we go.
How tight do we actually can we come
Just
back?
snug them down.
Just snug it down?
Yeah, snug them down with a wrench.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, good. Now gently wrap it up, around and up to this fitting over here.
So leave.
And you're going to leave yourself a little bit of area where you can put a cushion clamp here or something like that. And then, remember I talked about there's a scribe line in this part of the fitting, and figure out just about where you want to go along that scribe line, and then just mark it on the hose there.
Have an ADL clamp around so you could kind of.
Let's talk a little bit about the muffler and the muffs that come with it. This is your cabin heat muff, inlet and outlet. And on the back side, there are two little baffles on each side here that need to fit on. What we usually end up doing, since Jabiru, there's a little bit of variation in the width of their mufflers when they weld these up. So we cheat on the side of being too short. It won't fit over the top securely. See, it doesn't lay down tight. So what we need to do is trim off, well, we can trace the back side of this here. Just put it on the back, on the muffler here, and we'll trim that. Yeah, there we go. So it looks like we need to take off about 1/4 of an inch. So what we can do is take 1/8 of an inch off on each side. So let me get the tin snips. This one is the cabin heat muff, and it does go on top here. This will be, well, it's actually 45 degrees angled. This is forward, that's aft, top and bottom, obviously. Yeah, this is about where it sits.
Put us in there about 8 or so on, because that's about when I put us.
If we're lucky, we won't have to loosen any of the headers to put this on. And we'll just have to see. Basically, you're fitting the pipes into the holes that are on the muffler. My side's in.
And close.
Okay.
Oh.
There you go. Oh, perfect. Yep, bring her on in. Now you can use a rubber mallet or a plastic mallet. Just if you do tap on the weld, not on the can itself, because the can will dent. And there's a little welded stop here.
Get all the way to that?
Try to get all the way to that. Yes, here you go.
Got it.
You got it? Okay, my side backed out just a touch. All right.
You know what it is? We're bottomed out on the heat shield here.
And that's okay. Yeah, they did.
It's pivoting on that. So that's okay.
Yep.
Heat shield will deflect with it.
So, in some applications I've run into, no matter what you do, you will not be able to get it up to the stop. That's okay. There's about an inch and a half of exhaust pipe now into this muffler anyway, so you're all right. Here's a welded tab on the top of the muffler here to this one. So just hook it on. Might be easier to go this way. And then pull it down. There's the first one, and there's another one on the bottom here.
These have to be safety wire.
I do.
You do?
Yeah, I do them. Safety wire these here loosely. That way if the spring does fail, you at least have the safety wire, you know, attached between the tailpipe and the muffler. I don't crank it down, it's just loosely in there so it'll stay. I do not put any RTV on these.
Safety wire through the coil.
Yeah, through the coil and through the two tabs. Okay. That's just how I do it.
Right.
There are two different size outlets on the cabin heat muff here. This is the 2-inch, this is the 2 1/4. On the bottom cowl, on the passenger side or the right side of the aircraft, is a 2-inch NACA scoop. So 2-inch to 2-inch is coming in here. So you'll put the 2-inch on the right-hand side of the muffler, and then you'll slide this into place right there, and the 2 1/4 will be on the other side. And then what you're going to have to do is run your piece of 2 1/4-inch scat hose back around over here to your cabin heat inlet. Now, so this is basically where the cabin heat muff is going to reside on the muffler. The way you hold this on is with the two worm clamps, the large 7-inch worm clamps that were sent in the kit. But what I want to do, does that look good there, Ed?
Yeah,
yep, and it fits. And basically the bottom flange here of this muff is sitting right on top of your tailpipe. That's a good reference there. Mark a line along the bottom flange so you know.
Put a con.
Mark a line along the flange, on the bottom flange here on the muffler, so when I take it off I have a reference point where I can strap this on. It's much easier to strap this muff on with it off the plane. I mean, it can be done, but it's a little bit easier when you take it off. All right, let's go ahead and take that off. When we had the muffler up, we noticed at the bottom of the plenum for the carburetor there was a couple of cap screws down, and they were just touching or about to touch the muffler can. So what Don's going to do is take a little ball peen hammer and gently peen these in just a little bit, so it should let it set in so they don't rub up against these cap screws.
A fine instrument.
Peen away.
Another thing we noticed while we're fitting the cabin heat muff on was where it needs to be. It was riding just a little bit on the top of the muffler tailpipe here. So what Ed did is he took it over to the grinder and he ground out just a little bit of the bottom flanger. Yeah, I think he did. Just so it'll set nice and flush there and it won't interfere with the tailpipe at all. So what you can do one of two things. We've wrapped these clamps around the top of these muffs with no issues whatsoever, like so. You don't have to. If you would like to, there's no issue with putting slots in there. It's completely up to you. What we do is we take this pretty stainless carb heat muff and we cut it off right here, just on the outside of the flanges. And I piggyback it right on top of this cabin heat muff. And that's where we put it. Now obviously imagine that we've cut this side off and cut that side off, but I piggyback it right there. It still pulls ambient heat across. This muff is hot anyway because you're always blowing hot air or air across it and it's always warm. And like I said, you're just pulling air around it and sucking up into the air box. So we haven't had any issues with it on the Lightnings like this. So that's an alternative. If you feel that this is too close to the bottom of your cowl and you don't like the way that's being routed, you can piggyback it on top of this one right here. We just drill a couple of rivets right here in the bottom, right through this flange right here, rivet them in, and you're done. Here's a 2 1/4. It will slip over here, but you really should, you can put the clamp around this and be all right, but you've got metal to metal in there, and it'll vibrate and it'll start to come off. So what we do is just take this, this spring inside here and pull out a little bit of it. And I cut it off. All right, and then, so now you got a sharp point and it will puncture this. I just bend a nice little 90 in there. So now you got a soft edge up against it. So now, when you put this on here, the clamp goes down. Now you got rubber with a clamp around it holding on to a metal flange, and it's less likely to work its way off. Also, when you're working with the fiberglass flanges on the NACA scoops, they have a tendency to run a little large. So the next thing I do is I'll take this the string here and I'll pull it off also. Same thing.
Now it'll stretch.
Now it stretches. And I sit there and I'll take it and I'll just pull on it a little bit, just open it up just a touch more, and that'll make your life a lot easier trying to slip it over the outlet or the outlet for the NACA scoop. If it's still not fitting well, because early on we had some issues, sometimes the guy with the fiberglass gets a little happy, puts another layer on when he doesn't need to. You just take some sandpaper and just sand it around there. Just sand around the outlet and it should work just fine.